Welcome to the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show, a broadcast service of globalbusinessnews.net.
This episode from the meeting room of Global TV Talk Show is brought to you by
The Bridge School, the accredited international online private school of choice, at bridgek12.org.
Porch Light Rental and Destination Services. Reduce your renter lump sum or managed relocation costs. Visit them at porchlightrental.com.
And by airs.com. With our full range of services, we can help design and manage your international relocation. Find us at airs.com.
Primestone Partners, featuring corporate, government, and developer housing solutions, as well as senior-level advisory services. Find them at primestonepartners.com.
And by International Auto Source. We are the vehicle experts for expats, featuring all major brands of automobiles with flexible solutions and financing. On the web at intlauto.com.
Become a global player in your field.
Cross Culture to Go provides virtual support for your global business and career success.
We can help you thrive in 140 plus countries and markets.
On the web at crossculturetogo.com.
This is Ed Cohen, your guest on Global TV Talk Show. This is a service of globalbusinessnews.net, which I founded in '03. Google Analytics has measured since then 1.2 million reader page views, audience page views. But more realistically, since we started Global TV Talk Shows because of the crash and burn of our live conference training business in late February of 2020, we've done over 200 of these TV broadcasts with authors and corporate leaders, big and small. And Google Analytics has traced about 124,000 audience page views to our sites. And thank you. You won't be disappointed in today's special guest. Sabine Gedeon is in LA. She's an executive coach, and she's going to be talking with us about her book and her podcast and about achieving goals and the journey to becoming. Sabine, I love your smile and your hair.
Welcome. You. Thank you so much, Edwin. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, it's really a pleasure. Okay, so you didn't grow up to be an author. So what did you tell your younger self? And you say, well, I got to do this.
Yeah, it's funny. When I started thinking about writing a book seriously, it was probably back in 2019 for two reasons. One, because in 2018, I had left corporate America after 13 years and after believing that, I was going to spend my entire career there. So I wanted to talk about the process of leaving, something that's so familiar, something that you identify with so much, and that leap into entrepreneurship that required courage. And not only
that is going on right now, the Great Resignation thing.
Yes.
I mean, mostly women, I think. But
yep, mostly women.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I thought that was very good timing.
All good. No, perfect insight. And actually, it speaks to what I'm doing today as it relates to that. But the book was really going to be about making that transition. Like, what are some of the steps that you have to take? But more importantly, for someone who thought, at least, like I was pretty smart, like I could figure things out. In the beginning, it was so hard to figure out how to get the coaching business up and running. And I went through, mental and emotional battle after mental and emotional battle. And I wanted to speak to not only just, making the leap and the tactical things that you have to do to plan for it, but the mindset changes that need to happen, like the transformation of who you are, your paradigm, what you believe to be true. And so that's what I started to write. And then got shifted, if you will, when I felt led to write the book about my story, my own personal journey, and my own series of transformations that had led me to that place.
Interesting. Wow. So I have to say that, the young lady, the poet who spoke at Biden's inauguration, and my memory look very similar. You're not related, are you?
No, Amanda Gorman and I are not related. If I
Yeah.
was, I would be screaming that from the rooftop.
Okay, so you have I'm reading my notes here, old school. Uh, Author of Transformed. So
Yeah.
are you talking about yourself?
Yeah, the book is about me. It's, part memoir, part motivational self-development. And in the book, I use the metaphor, I leverage the metaphor of the butterfly or the caterpillar turning into the butterfly,
That's good.
the
Wow.
metamorphosis that happens, and how, through a series and chains of events, I relay back to, I guess, stages in that metamorphosis that the caterpillar goes through. I shared stories of me in that particular stage.
So,
Um,
so a caterpillar is this thing that doesn't fly; it just crawls around, like an
yes.
inchworm, a
Hmm.
little fuzzy thing, and then all of a sudden it's poof, and they take a leap of faith, or what?
I mean, I don't know if they take a leap of faith. I call it they willingly and voluntarily go into the transformation chamber. And so, if you think about the process, right, real high level, they go into they they're in this space where they're eating and eating and eating and eating. They move away from what's familiar, what's comfortable, their tribe. They go away into this space, and then they're isolated in this cocoon. And during that time, their entire identity is destroyed, meaning that they pretty much go to smush. And then pieces of their new identity start to form while they're in this chrysalis. And to break out of the chrysalis and to really gain strength so that they can fly and soar, that's when they experience the struggle, much like a chick, of breaking through and building strength in their wings so that they can fly, find a new flock, and then be able to soar to new heights. So I guess step by step of the phase, I share my story of my complete destruction to my struggle to my breaking out and breaking free and learning how to use, my new wings or my new freedom.
So this didn't happen overnight. And I'm sure you had some bouts of imposter syndrome and all that BS, but it's real though, isn't it?
Yeah, actually, with writing the book, I wrote it in 10 days. I wrote the first draft in 10
Whoa.
days. Again, not planned. I went on a fast. I went on a 7-day fast. I do these quarterly fasts as a way to just cleanse
Cleanse,
mentally,
huh? Right.
emotionally, spiritually, everything, and started writing the book. And by the 10th day, I was done with most of it. Obviously, we went back and did some editing and whatnot. But this was completely a God-led and God-inspired project that allowed me to do it that quickly.
Sad. I wonder if Bob Woodward does it that way. So, so, so let's talk about flying. Okay, you're jumping off a building here, and it wasn't all breezy.
Not at all. Not at all. So going back to the motivation for the first book that I wanted to write was, I remember when I was making the decision, it took about a year and a half for me to actually make the leap. But as I was making the decision, one of the things that I continued to pray for was courage. I continued to ask God, like, just give me courage. Just give me courage to do this. Like, I know I'm smart. I know I'll figure this out. I know I'll do all these things. And I know that you're behind me, but I needed courage. And I think that that's such a huge piece. And it still lives with me today because one of my programs is called The Courageous Leader, because I do think that, in our everyday lives, we are faced with, changes. We are faced with situations that we may not have control over. We don't know what the next step is going to look like, but something inside of us is pulling us towards that next piece. And so it's so important, for people to recognize that, with faith, with courage. The image that I have or that I've had and held on to is, falling off a cliff, right? And courage and faith tells you, yes, you're going to fall for a while, but it's going to be a soft landing. So yes, you'll go through the fear. Yes, you'll go through the like anticipation of what's going on, what's going on. But with courage and with that faith as your foundation, you know that the landing is going to be soft.
So what did you do in corporate America?
I was in HR from the time I graduated from undergrad, mostly corporate recruiting, and then transitioned into more of like an HR generalist, HR business partner role in the latter years.
And was that in LA?
No, well, most of my time, most of my life has been spent in Connecticut. And then I got this job that then relocated me to a couple of different sites around the country. So I've lived in Houston, I've lived in Charlotte, I've lived in West Palm Beach, Florida, as a result of the moves and transitions with my company at the time.
And so how were your relocations? Challenging?
Yes. The first one, they gave us 6 weeks notice. So I had a condo. I was fully like established and in my comfort zone and in my routine. And in 6 weeks, I had to uproot everything that was familiar. Yeah, yeah. And so the program that I was in, every 8 months, we changed positions. And in my case, I relocated. So I got really, really comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I got really, really comfortable with letting go of, whatever my sense of stability was at the time.
So did they give you any help? Did they have a relocation specialist advise you?
Yeah, absolutely. I know that this is your zone of genius, your area. Um, so yes, they had contracted with a company. They did all of come to pack us up and whatnot, but stuff like, okay, now where's the closest grocery store? Where do I find a place? All of those pieces, like you were still figuring it out on your own.
So did they help you make friends?
No.
Or
Um,
back then there was no app for that,
Yeah,
right?
no. Well,
Right.
the good part was there was some level of community, right? Because once you started in a new job, like there were other employees that you got to connect with,
Right.
and we were in cohorts. So regardless of where we were around the country, I still had a group of about 8 people that were my people that I could rely on. And I think that that was the other big shift for me, right? So yes, I was experiencing all these transitions when I was in corporate, but as soon as I leaped and went into entrepreneurship, you have to build community. Like you have to make friends as an adult, without the, security or the comfort or the familiarity of like that commonality that, oh, we're in the same company. So that was another interesting part of the process as well.
Okay, so I want to ask you, if you could tell your younger self, would you invent an app or use technology in order to make that transition easier?
Um, I think the tactical pieces of the transition, yes, absolutely. The mental and the emotional things, I don't know that there is an app for that.
It's just faith.
Yeah, it's faith, it's facing your fears, because obviously when we're in a state of unknown, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of worry, there's a lot of doubt, there's a lot of maybe some negative programming from our childhood that shows up. And so being courageous enough to face those things and move past them and decide, okay, well, what parts of my old self do I want to carry with me into this new journey, and what parts do I want to let go or that no longer serve me?
Good
So
for
I don't
you.
know how you can put an app in that unless you got someone coaching you. You can use a coaching app for that, I guess.
So how about this crazy analogy, the wild and crazy? And I've had coffee. So, oh,
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you a timely announcement.
Hi, I'm Sergei Gorbatov.
I'm Angela Lane.
Together, we're researchers, writers, and practitioners in the field of human resources.
And we've also been multi-country, multi-assignment career expats.
We owe our professional development and growth to a very large extent to the international assignment opportunities that we have had.
But in a world where distributed work may become the norm, we also want to understand What will happen to the nature, duration, and purpose of international assignments?
Together with our colleague, Julian Dalzell from the University of South Carolina, we're undertaking a study on the future of expatriation.
And we'd value your contribution. You can participate in this important study by completing a simple 10-minute questionnaire.
Access the questionnaire by typing in your browser tinyurl.com/expert study. That's tinyurl.com/expert study. You can also find the link here on Ed's website next to this video.
Thank you for joining us in this study. In return for your contribution, we'll provide you with a copy of our research.
And of course, you'll be invited to an exclusive webinar hosted by Ed, where we will share our findings right here on Global Business News.
And so please go to tinyurl.com/expat study. Take the survey so that we can better understand the future of expatriation.
Something that's really neat is that the Bridge School partners with various organizations to provide learning for their students. For example, we partner with a major ballet company, and we are able to enroll several of their students into our school. So now not only is the student able to participate in a school and have a seamless transition while they're very active in their ballet career, but now they have other dancers that are with them that are doing some of the same courses. So it's almost becoming a camaraderie where they're taking similar courses, they're working together on their ballet, and really being able to form this great partnership with these organizations to provide a needed service. A lot of times there are student athletes who will spend hours and hours at the gym or at the basketball courts, wherever it is. And if they're attending a traditional school, they're in school from 8 to 3. They get a quick snack, and then they're at the gym for 3 to 4 hours in the evening. Coming to us and having that partnership, they're able to break that up throughout the day. They can have a morning practice, get some schooling in, have an afternoon practice, finish their schooling in the evening. So there's that flexibility. And additionally, if there are tournaments or performances, it's fantastic because if there's a week where they have shows straight through, they can take that week off of learning and then pick back up when they're done. So it offers this great flexibility. And for the program owners of these sports leagues, it is a win-win situation for them because they see this need. They see this need that their students need to make sure that they are obtaining the grades necessary to be successful adults in our country and in other countries. But it provides them an environment where they can be successful at both.
Jumping out of an airplane, wearing a parachute, and you've had some training, but you're jumping out of an airplane, a relocation, or I'm going to write a book, or I'm going to quit my corporate security blanket job and become an entrepreneur. This can be the easiest, fastest way to crashing your credit rating. Is trying to be an entrepreneur.
Right.
So, when you decided to, in the early days, quit, I'm going to write a book, I'm going to turn my own self experience to become a coach for others who are going through challenges, I assume you had some of those thoughts. And is it similar to jumping out of an airplane without a parachute or with a parachute? And then, you got to land properly or else you break a leg.
Yeah. I would say it's with a parachute, but you don't know where the pull thing is. Like, you know, it's there.
Oh, it's
You
coming.
just don't
That
know.
ground's coming up too fast. Yeah.
Yeah, you just don't know where it is. So while you're free falling, there's some level of safety knowing that it's there, but you got to figure out where it is, so that you can make that landing safe.
So I don't mean to dwell on this danger thing, but the journey to becoming is a podcast you have, right?
Hmm. Yes.
Okay. So what do you talk about?
Yeah, so very similar. Season one, I shared my story. Season two, it's really been focused on sharing the journeys of others. Because oftentimes we'll see, especially with social media, we see people's highlight reels, we see the amazing lives and businesses that they've built, but we don't know the valleys and the scrapes and the nights of fetal position that they spent to get to that point. And so I want to take the cover and allow some vulnerability for people to really understand what it means to get to that mountaintop, what it means to be successful, by whatever definition they've defined success. And so the guests that I bring on, they've had, stories of trauma, stories of pain, challenges, things that they've had to learn, techniques, mindset, healing, all these things that they've had to embody over the course of their lives to now become these coaches, these authors, these speakers that, have these highlight reels that look amazing. So it's really meant to be motivational. It's really meant to give hope to those who are on their climb, and also hope for those who may be in that valley season, and they're looking up and they're like, how am I ever going to get there? And so we provide actual tools, strategies, and techniques so that people can start to make little small shifts to move towards whatever that next mountain is.
Okay. So um, truth or consequences. Remember that old TV show? Probably not.
No.
But you should Google that and then search on YouTube for the old filmed TV shows, Truth or Consequences. So becoming an entrepreneur has peaks,
Mhm.
hopefully. But the valleys include bankruptcy, shattered relationships, danger,
Mhm.
mistakes, financial and otherwise.
Yeah. Isolation.
It's a near-death experience. I've been there. And the faith has a lot of power, and the tactical step by step by step. You can't do it alone. You need to have a mentor. You need to have a sponsor. You need to have someone who can open a door.
Mhm.
And then you have to go through it and then find a way to make something happen that will take you to another level. So if you were to look back on your younger self now, look back, I mean, you're very young now, but if what would you tell them?
Ooh, about entrepreneurship specifically?
Recover from failure and
Oh,
say, and then, okay, you see where you want to go. Now,
yeah.
how the heck am I going to get there?
Yeah. So here's what I've learned in my journey, life, entrepreneurship, you name it. Being an immigrant and a child of immigrants, it was always you
So
gotta
you and
perform.
you grew up in you were born in Haiti.
Haiti. Yep.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. There's this mindset of we've sacrificed everything to give you a chance that we didn't have. And so, these messages around like you gotta achieve, you gotta perform, you gotta strive, you gotta do better, right? Because generations before you didn't get this opportunity. And so for a very long time, I've carried that weight. We were talking about being that type A high achiever, whatever. A lot of that stems from that. And a lot of it stems from I wanted to, make my family proud. I wanted to be the first to go to college. I was the first to go to college, first to get a corporate job, all these things. Um, as so my identity was very much wrapped in achievement, was very much wrapped into, checking off something and then moving on to the next bigger and better thing. As I've matured, right, I have realized that, and especially being an entrepreneur, being in the entrepreneur space, I have had to learn how to embrace failure, not as a bad thing, not as an evil thing, not as a shameful thing, but as a way through to growth. And so if I could tell my younger self something, it would be that failure is not something to fear. Failure is something that you should start embracing. And you should be looking for ways, like, not intentionally, like not doing your homework, but you should be looking for ways to fail, because that means that you have an opportunity to learn, you have an opportunity to grow, you have an opportunity to develop a skill set that maybe perhaps you didn't have before.
That's really clear. Thank you. So the faith element, um, like the Serenity Prayer, uh, was developed over time by a lot of people, but the application of it really worked for Alcoholics Anonymous. Not that I was there, but the words, God grant me the serenity and calmness to accept the things I cannot change, and please give me the courage to try again and to understand, I'm paraphrasing, the difference between what I can do and what I cannot do, and more. 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, I still do that. Now, I wasn't in Alcoholics Anonymous, but boy, I'll tell you, being an entrepreneur is a rocky road.
Yeah.
And pitfalls without guardrails.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still there. It doesn't go away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I really applaud what you're doing. So do you have a book cover you can hold up and show?
I should have had it right next to me. I do not.
Okay, so in the post-production, we'll see it.
Okay, lesson learned.
Okay, so the secret, we're sharing secrets here and achieving goals. So do you think your biggest customer base would be young women of color?
Not necessarily of color. I think my focus on women and emerging leaders has come from, my experience in corporate and also as an entrepreneur, where, I saw specifically women. Well, we already know that there's a wage gap that exists, right? And we know that there are things around like the glass ceiling. And being in HR in these larger organizations, I saw the decisions that kind of supported that. And I also saw the behaviors and the actions, where in most cases, and I know I'm generalizing here, in most cases where, women are afraid to ask or try to negotiate at the beginning, when they get a new job or for promotion or to be on projects, whereas their male counterparts have less of an issue doing that. Then you have the whole mindset or the notion of negotiating and building win-win relationships. And the thought process of most women was, I'm going to put my head down, I'm going to get my work done, and someone's going to acknowledge and recognize me. Meanwhile, again, male counterparts are in their boss's office, like, hey, this is what my team did, and this is what we accomplished, and this, that, and the third. So I saw some of the, systematic things that were in place that were holding them back. And I also saw the behavior, those unknown rules that they weren't applying.
Yeah, and that's all built in. Of course, you've learned that being in HR, but now we're seeing it in full color every day across the spectrum. So awareness, bringing it to the public and bringing it out in conversation is not to cause division. It's just to clearly understand what needs to be addressed. And the way to address it is through self-growth and take control of yourself. And everybody should be thinking that, right? Don't wait for someone else to help you.
Yeah. And I also think that the time that we're in, and especially within these last few years, people may say like we we shouldn't have needed permission, if you will. But I do think that with the experiences that have taken place in the last couple of years, people are feeling more and more confident, or that they have permission to speak up. They have permission to ask for what they want. They have permission to seek out careers that fulfill them and not just pay the bills. Whereas previous generations, the mindset was, hey, you work for 40 years, you retire, then you live. As these newer generations have come through, it's been actually, no, I don't want work to be my life. I want it to be an aspect of my life, or what, supports me living life.
Talking with Sabine Gedeon. What's your website?
It's SabineGedeon.com.
So Sabine, SabineGedeon. And you're the author of Transformed. You have a podcast, Journey to Becoming. We've talked about something that you say to your younger self. We're talking about achieving goals and sharing secrets. So I also read that you lead a network called the She
Leads Network. Yes. I'm actually launching that October 1st. So it's 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks away from its official launch. And it's designed to do just what I've been talking about, bringing women together who are high achievers, who want to continue to excel in their careers, but they want to do it on their terms. And what that looks like is, maybe shifting roles, starting their own business, expanding their side hustle. So it's meant to be a collaborative community where, one, they can be themselves, there isn't any competition, and that they actually get the support, the resources, the coaching, and the training that they need to be successful in whatever that next level is for them.
Thank you, Sabine, for being on Global TV Talk Show. I look forward to continuing our relationship.
Thank you, Edwin. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us in the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show.
Have a wonderful day, and stay safe.